Part 109. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1081. Chapter 1081. Daddy, don't you want a son? 5. Are you a little kid? Child. Tanyuj was also stunned when he saw little Mickey, and even suspected that he had made a mistake in his judgment. Tanyuj's eyes were fixed on the little kid squatting under the table, with only his exposed. Tanyuj let go of the waitress's arm and quickly walked to the table where Mickey was sitting. He looked at the little guy lowered on the table and narrowed his eyes dangerously. There must be something up with this kid. It must be the bad thing done by this little devil, but why does this little devil want to make fun of himself? How old is he? Up to 3 years old. Little Mickey huddled up with his eyes closed and kept muttering in his mouth. Can't see me, can't see me. At this moment, little Mickey was still hoping that Tanyuj didn't suspect him at all, but he didn't know that Tanyuj had already come behind him and stared at him for a long time. Little Amy slowly turned her head to see if Tanyuj had left. Unexpectedly, when she turned around, an enlarged face appeared in front of her, making him scream in surprise. Ah, damn it! You've just seen a ghost. Tanyuj looked at the little guy squatting on the ground with a gloomy look. He stretched out his hand to grab his neck, lifted it in front of him, and looked at little Mickey carefully. He has big round eyes and straight eyes. There is a small amount of hair hanging on his forehead in front of him. He wears a mask that covers his entire face. The mask obviously belonged to an adult. It was a little big on his face and seemed about to fall off. His facial features cannot be seen clearly, only his vivid eyes can be seen. The weight he carries in his hand is very light, definitely less than 15 kilograms, and his height is at most 80 centimeters. He looks very small and delicate, with small hands and feet. It's really too small and has no texture. When I hold it in my hand, I feel like I'm holding this little toy. Is this kid the one who teased me just now? At this moment, Tanyuj doubted whether he had guessed wrong, but looking at the guilty look on the child in front of him, he thought that he had not made a mistake in his judgment. Normally, children of this age should not be mentally mature, and they should still be crying and fussy children. Why does the child in front of me seem a little different from the other children? Seems to be more mature, and there is a feeling of being too mature. His expression at this moment must have been terrifying, but this little guy just stared with his eyes straight, not afraid of himself, let alone cried. He is confident that his current appearance can scare many children to tears, but the child in front of him is too abnormal. At this moment, Tanyuj didn't realize that little Mickey's current behavior was very similar to his own childhood. He can recite poetry at the age of 1.5, recognize all Chinese characters at the age of 2, and even knows how to use a computer. He is a complete genius. The little Mickey in front of him was just like him, acting like an overage child. It's just that this is the first time he has met such a smart child, and he would not have thought that the children he saw on the road would have such an incredible IQ. Did you just instruct the waiter to add chili pepper water to my drink? His mouth was still numb at this moment. This was the first time he had been hit by such spicy food, and he was not prepared at all. Little Mickey was stunned, looking at the other party blankly, waving his little paws to try to break free from Tanyuj's hand. But Tanyuj had no intention of letting it go, and carried it in mid-air like a toy. There will be updates soon. Your Majesty hasn't written it yet. We went out today to eat, sing, play, and watch a movie. Make the most of your day. I'll code at home tomorrow. I will write as much as I can tonight. When I wake up, I will update more than 10,000 to make up for the laziness of the past few days. Moi. But if you praise me, I may add 20,000 words. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1082. Chapter 1082. Daddy, don't you want a son? 6. Little Mickey started to move his hands and feet violently, but it was of no use at all and was still floating in the air. Who told him to be small and weigh less? Let me go. Little Mickey kept moving violently. Do you admit it or not? Tanyuj pressed. You bad guy, let me go now. That's not cool at all. He's cool, Mickey. The interaction between one large and one small attracted the attention of countless people, who looked over one after another. I saw a very cute little guy suspended in mid-air by his collar, held by a handsome and somewhat irrational man. Sir, please put the child down first, he is still young. The gentle waitress just now couldn't stand it and wanted to come over and say something nice. Tanyuj shot a sharp look, becoming even more determined that it was this little devil who had just teased him. Tanyuj looked at the little devil in front of him, stretched out his finger and poked his forehead. How dare you, kid, to tease me? Don't you know that teasing me will end badly? And I have no grudges against you and have never met, so why are you teasing me? Tanyuj was sure. This was the first time he saw this kid. There weren't even a few children around him. Even if he didn't take off the mask on his face, he knew he didn't recognize the kid. I. Little Mickey didn't know what to do for a moment. He didn't think about the consequences at all. He was just angry that Tanyuj made him leave his mother and wanted to take revenge on him. He never thought that he would be discovered and now he would face the death penalty. What to do? Little Mickey's eyes suddenly changed, he became timid, and burst into tears. The crying sound resounded throughout the restaurant, and even if they didn't pay attention to the guests here, they all noticed them. Some comments began to sound around, and they were all wondering why Tanyuj wanted to bully a child. Is it domestic violence? There were even a few nosy, well-intentioned people who came over to say bad things. A middle-aged man and his wife came over and advised Tanyuj kindly. Young man, if the child is disobedient, just coax him away. Don't use violence. Fathers should be more considerate to their children. After all, the children are only 2 or 3 years old and don't understand anything. Put the children down quickly. Dad. Child. Tanyuj looked at the couple speechlessly, knowing that they had misunderstood. You have misunderstood, I am not his father. No, the couple was stunned. Is he the stepfather? The middle-aged man looked at his wife and suddenly felt sorry for little Mickey. At such a young age, it is really pitiful to face such a vicious stepfather. You misunderstood. Tanyuj also wanted to explain, but the people around him didn't want to listen at all and continued to talk. Finally, I looked at the little guy who kept crying in his hands but didn't shed a single tear. It was obviously intentional. His cries echoed throughout the restaurant, attracting more and more onlookers. The voices of discussion around him continued to reach Tanyuj's ears. He looked at the naughty child in his hand and thought about the misfortune he had just received. After weighing it in his mind, he finally chose to let go of the little kid in his hand. Forget it, it's just a prank played by a child. He doesn't care about the villain's faults, so he just lets the little off once. Little Mickey stepped on the ground again and stopped crying instantly. He raised his head and glared at Tanyuj. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1083. Chapter 1083. Daddy, don't you want a son? 7. Tanyuj finally convinced himself not to compete with children, but he didn't expect that the look he received was one of contempt. This little has so many eyes, he doesn't look like a child at all. He was crying loudly just now. Although he saw that he did this on purpose and didn't care about him much, he didn't expect that this little devil didn't know what to do and actually provoked him after he was freed. Tanyuj glared back unconvinced and looked at the people around him. After being made trouble by the children, he lost the mood to continue to find out who was peeping at him. Little Mickey felt very unhappy after regaining his dignity. He was not cool at all just now, and it was all because of this man. Little devil, I'm warning you, next time you provoke me, you won't do it like this. Tanyuj pointed at little Mickey and threatened. Tanyuj turned around and strode away, acting as if he didn't understand anything the people around him said. Little Mickey narrowed his eyes in dissatisfaction, glanced at the people around him, and suddenly burst into tears. He quickly ran to Tanyuj's side with his short legs, sat on the ground with his little butt, spread out his small paws, and hugged Tanyuj's arms. The calf cried loudly, and finally shouted while crying, "Daddy, don't leave. Don't you want a son? Little Mickey kept crying, crying very sadly, and his little face turned red. He cried too hard, but couldn't squeeze out. Tears come. Little Mickey hugged Tanyuj's calf and sat on the ground. His helpless and pitiful look immediately aroused the pity of everyone around him. Sir, no matter how ignorant your child is, you can't let him go. That is to say, your son is so cute. If my son were this cute, it would be too late to hurt. The child is still young, so you should be more considerate of the child. Today's young people will not learn to be fathers if they don't want to be fathers. They should not be born, they will be responsible after birth. Hurry up and coax the child, he's almost crying after all, he's just a little baby. This is the first time I've seen such a cruel father, it's so inhumane. No matter if it's your biological father, stepfather, or even a stranger, you will feel sympathy when you see a child crying. How can you just abandon the child? Don't cry, little baby, uncle will make the decision for you. Auntie makes the decision for you. Sister, I'll make the decision for you. Suddenly all the passers-by jumped out to take action, surrounding Tanyuj and little Mickey. Tanyuj was inexplicably being criticized by 1,000 people, and all kinds of persuasion were thrown at him. Tanyuj's face was as dark as the bottom of a pot at this moment. He looked down at the child sitting on the ground holding his calf, crying heartbrokenly. He shouldn't even call him a child. He was a baby. He was too old. Smaller. Where are the parents of such a young child? How could such a young child be left outside? Is it a lost baby? And then you have to rely on yourself? When Tanyuj saw the gloating in little Mickey's eyes, he instantly understood that this little doll was deliberately trying to mess with him. This little doll was very smart and definitely not what he looked like on the outside. And I was so unlucky that he punished me. Why did I get punished? He was even more confused. This is not my child. You have misunderstood, Tanyuj explained helplessly, hoping to make people around him believe his words. I won't write anymore. What I wrote today feels like I'm squeezing out toothpaste. Everyone, go to bed. We'll see you there tomorrow afternoon. Your Majesty has gone to bed. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1084. Chapter 1084. I don't have a daddy. 1. This is not my child. You have misunderstood, Tanyuj explained helplessly, hoping to make people around him believe his words. He just started to say a word and then stopped because the people around him looked at him coldly and accusingly. They had already decided that this little baby was his child, and he was not responsible for denying his own son. Johnny also knew that little Mickey had disappeared early in the morning. Qian Yuman rushed over quickly, his face full of anxiety. Johnny, what did you say? Little Mickey is missing. Yeah. I didn't answer the phone. I don't know where I went. How could this happen? How could little Mickey disappear so early in the morning? Not only is he missing, but his little bag is also missing. At first I thought he was looking for you. Qian Yuman was extremely anxious. Her son suddenly disappeared for the first time. According to Johnny's wishes, he ran out alone. He was a child and had never been out alone. Could it be that he felt uncomfortable after leaving him at Johnny's house this time, so he went home alone? Thinking that she might get lost on the way home, or that she might be abducted by human traffickers, in the end, Chien-Yuman didn't dare to think about it, and tears of fear kept falling. Little Mickey is still battling wits with the father he met for the first time, while Chien-Yuman is going crazy because her son is missing. On Tangyu's side, about 10 minutes later, Mr. Tang, the handsome chairman of the Emgrand Group, was seen in the lobby of the Emgrand Group. He was carrying a 2 or 3-year-old baby in his hand, walking towards the elevator with a dark face. The baby being held by the neck kept moving his body and struggling violently. However, his body was too small and his strength was weak. No matter how he moved, it would not help. Like a puppy, he carried her back to the office. I heard that Mr. Tang got married and had children. It turns out it's true. I heard that a child was born, but there are also rumors that they are divorced. The little baby just now was so small and cute, he must have made a mistake and was educated by Mr. Tang. Ah, Mr. Tang is so handsome and rich, I also want to be held in his hands. Two nymphomaniacs at the front desk leaned together to become nymphomaniacs. When they saw little Mickey being abused by Tangyuj, they not only had no sympathy for him, but also deeply envied him. If little Mickey heard this, he would rush over angrily and scold him. Tangyuj lay lazily on the sofa, looking at the little baby sitting opposite him like a good baby, with a gloomy face, still unhappy about what just happened. It had been a long time since I had felt embarrassed. I didn't expect to be so embarrassed by a 2 or 3-year-old child. May I have your name? Mommy calls me Little Mickey, the good baby. Little Mickey answered Tangyuj's question honestly. He put his hands on his knees and stared at the villain with a gloomy face across from him with his big round eyes. Your parents call me. I don't remember. Little Mickey shook his head and pretended to be stupid. There was a mobile phone in his small bag. How could he not know his mother's phone number? Tangyuj glanced at little Mickey opposite him and sighed deeply. I almost forgot that the little kid across from me was only 2 or 3 years old. It was not easy to memorize his parents' phone numbers. I originally thought that this little kid was smart and would know his parents' phone numbers. Then you finally know Dad's name. He could still investigate the name, so he quickly sent this little trouble back. Little Mickey shook his head quickly, his eyes suddenly filled with tears, and he looked at Tangyuj pitifully. I don't have a daddy. I am an unwanted child. Your Majesty is here to visit your aunt. I feel so sleepy and uncomfortable that I decided to go to bed and will update again in the evening. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1085. Chapter 1085. I don't have a daddy too. Little Mickey shook his head quickly, his eyes suddenly filled with tears, and he looked at Tangyuj pitifully. I don't have a daddy. I am an unwanted child. The pain of being stabbed in the center by a bad guy made little Mickey really burst into tears. He wiped his tears while crying, That's not cool at all. This uncle is a big bad guy who specializes in bullying children. The look in his eyes is so scary. He seems to have kicked an iron plate. If he wants to find a way to escape, his mother must not come to find him. If mother knew about his affair with Tangyuj, she would definitely scold herself and find an opportunity to sneak away later. Little Mickey cried very sadly. Tangyuj, who had a dark face at first, saw that the little baby was really crying. He felt a strange sense of sadness in his heart and his tone became much gentler. It turned out to be a child without a father. Stop crying. Tangyuj didn't know how to comfort a child. He was surrounded by the little baby and tried hard to comfort him. Go away. Little Mickey stretched out his hand to push Tangyuj away, but unfortunately the bad guy stood beside him like a giant mountain and couldn't be pushed away. Stop crying. Tanyuj was not good at comforting children, so his tone became harsh. The little guy was frightened and stopped for a moment. After 2 seconds, he cried even louder. "You are a bad guy, you bully children." Little Mickey tearfully accused Tanyuj of his behavior, making Tanyuj look embarrassed. A little guy over 2 years old cried so sadly that he didn't know where to put it. Okay, it's Uncle's fault. I won't scare you anymore." Tanyuj reached out and hugged little Mickey. Regardless of whether the little guy wanted it or not, he hugged him hard, behaved extremely gently, and patted him gently. Little back. Little Mickey, who struggled twice, buried his tearful little face into his chest and cried wildly. "Obviously you hate this bad guy. Why does lying on his chest make him feel a happy sense of security? He's obviously a bad guy." Little Mickey knew that this was a spiritual echo between father and son. Even Tanyuj, who was holding little Mickey, felt a faint sense of satisfaction in his heart, an unprecedented sense of satisfaction. It is obviously the first time we meet this little guy. Why does he feel like he is holding his own child? Thinking about the fact that he once had a child, he felt a sense of loss in his heart. At that time, he and Chiener also had twin daughters, but unfortunately the children died at birth. He regretted not being with her to accompany her through that difficult life. It must have been painful for her to lose her child. How could he feel comfortable when he knew that he had lost his child? Especially the way she cried uncontrollably back then, thinking about it now makes his heart ache. Little Mickey, who was lying on Tanyuj and gradually stopped crying, buried his little face in Tanyuj's arms and murmured in a choked voice. "Bad guy, let me tell you, I usually don't cry. I see you are very good at crying. That's because I was scared by you. Even though you are a grown-up and a little kid like me, you cry so ugly that it's not cool at all. It's so sad." He really wants to have a father, but why does he know dad? At this moment, little Mickey suddenly realized that he had never thought about this problem, why he didn't have anything to do with his father. "Since childhood, I have been loved by my mother, loved by my godmother, and protected by my godfather. I have never thought about my biological father. Thank you all for your concern and consideration. I love you so much. Nice to have you. Moi. Your Majesty has started updating. It will probably last until bed at 1 o'clock. I will be in good health tomorrow and will definitely make up for it. Sugar baby, Your Majesty, I despise you. When will little Mickey and I get to know each other?" End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1086. Chapter 1086. I don't have a daddy 3. That's because you were teasing me for no reason. I'm easier to talk to. If someone else had spanked you, your mother would have spanked you long ago. My mommy never hits me, she loves me very much. I can't tell, if your mother has a child as naughty as you, she will definitely chase you with a feather duster and beat her every day when she gets angry. Nonsense, I am a smart child and I behave well every day. Then why are you so naughty to me? You don't get along with me. Who knows? Little Mickey secretly complained that he didn't know it, so he just wanted to get close to him and bully him. Seeing him torture and embarrassed, he would feel particularly good. The two father and son chatted with each other, neither of them admitting defeat. Even though little Mickey was only over 2 years old, Chien Yuman was already quite good at talking. "Okay, little brat, I know you are very smart. Please tell me mommy's name and phone number." After such rounds of exchanges, Tanyuj realized that this child's IQ is as smart as his own when he was a child. He is so smart. It is impossible for a child not to know his mother's name, phone number, and even her home address. I don't know, he will run out later. Don't be a scoundrel. I want to meet your mother today to find out which poor person gave birth to a child like you. Tanyuj's face became serious and his tone became stern, giving people an aura that he could not resist. He sincerely sighed for this little kid and wanted to send this little guy back to his parents. Mommy, you. Little Mickey was about to tell the bad guy when Tanyuj's phone rang. Tanyuj glanced at the phone on his desk and saw it was Jianyuman. He quickly put aside the tearful little Mickey and answered the phone happily. Jianur, are you looking for me? Do you miss me? Tanyuj answered the phone with a happy face. This was the first time he had received a call from her recently. Little Mickey, with tears in his eyes, looked at Tanyuj with his lips pouted. His smart eyes rolled, he pursed his lips, and glanced at Tanyuj, who was also talking happily on the phone, and then looked at the closed door. The short-legged boy jumped off the sofa, sticking out his tongue and making faces at Tanyuj. Tanyuj, who was on the phone, only heard the cry on the other end of the phone. The smile on his face disappeared instantly, and he frowned in concern. What's wrong? Why are you crying so well? What happened? Jianyuman, who couldn't find her son, called Tanyuj while crying. She opened her mouth to speak, but she felt particularly aggrieved when she thought of her missing son. This was the first time that her son was missing, and she didn't know what to do. She drove her car on the streets to look for him, and also called the police. The police sent people to help find him. Kenny also had a lot of connections in Paris and was working hard to find him. The sad Jianyuman just wanted to call Tanyuj. When she heard his voice, she felt even more aggrieved. She opened her mouth and almost told him about the disappearance of little Mickey, and even wanted to tell them that there was actually the matter of a son. What's wrong? Was someone bullied by someone? Is it Tina? Or that Kenny? No one bullied me, he disappeared, Before his son could say the word, Johnny, who was sitting in the driver's seat, suddenly called Jianyuman. Manman, phone. Johnny looked at the phone in his hand and showed it to Jianyuman with a look of surprise on his face. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Dalby in the World. Chapter 1087. Chapter 1087. I don't have a daddy for. Manman, phone. Johnny looked at the phone in his hand and showed it to Jianyuman with a look of surprise on his face. The phone showed that little Mickey had been unreachable. Unexpectedly, this little actually called. He had not answered the call just now, but now he actually got through. Jianyuman looked at Johnny's phone with tears in her eyes. Her eyes widened and she immediately hung up the phone in her hand and answered the call from little Mickey. Godmother. Little Mickey's grandma's voice came from the phone. Jianyuman, who had held back her tears for a few seconds, broke down and burst into tears when she heard her son's call. You little bastard, where have you been? Where have you gone alone? Don't you know that your mother will be worried about you? She won't answer your phone calls. Don't you know that your mother is going crazy with worry? You child. Little Mickey on the other end of the phone blamed himself and apologized repeatedly, realizing that he had made his mother sad by doing this. I'm sorry, Mommy. Don't cry. Little Mickey is fine. Where are you? Jianyuman wiped her tears, feeling happy and sad at the same time. Little Mickey immediately told Jianyuman the restaurant where he had just stayed. When Tanyuj took him away just now, he did not bring his mobile phone, binoculars, and other equipment with him. I didn't have my cell phone with me just now, and I didn't even know that my mother called me. I was so anxious that I couldn't find it. Just now he ran away secretly while Tanyuj was on the phone. When he saw his mother's call to him, he immediately called back. Tanyuj looked annoyed when the phone was hung up for no reason. What's missing? Why did I cry on the phone and didn't answer the call back home? Even when I finally got through, I said everything was fine and hung up the phone. Tanyuj hung up the phone and looked for little Mickey, only to find that the little guy had already slipped away. Only after asking someone in the lobby did he find out that the little guy had run towards the opposite building again, and he was alone. This kid is running around when he is only over 2 years old. He is lucky and did not meet bad people. If he met bad people, no matter how smart the child is, he will be abducted and trafficked. Tanyuj shook his head helplessly and sighed, deciding that the good guy would fight to the end and go to the building opposite to look for him. Brat. Qian Yuman also rushed over. Little Mickey waited obediently in the restaurant, not daring to run around. He sat obediently in his seat and waited for his mother to come over. He would never dare to run around alone next time. Qian Yuman and the others were very close to here and rushed over in less than 5 minutes. They saw her son sitting on the sofa with red eyes. He immediately saw a guilty expression on his serious face and climbed down from the sofa. He ran towards his mother quickly. Mommy. Little Mickey ran towards Qian Yuman quickly. Qian Yuman's nose felt sour and she almost shed tears again. She squatted down and spread her arms to hug little Mickey's small body. Smart little Mickey also saw his mother's red eyes and immediately opened his mouth to apologize profusely. Mommy, I'm sorry, forgive me, I won't dare to run out alone next time. Little Mickey grabbed Qian Yuman's clothes with his little paws. Qian Yi swallowed all the lessons that came to his lips because of his son's sincere apology. He sighed helplessly and gently stroked his son's head. Mommy doesn't blame you. It's Mommy's fault. She left you to your godmother. Mommy knows she was wrong. Qian Yuman hugged her son hard. After this loss, she realized that she didn't care enough for her son. Many. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1088. Chapter 1088. Who is my daddy? 1. Then I can go home today, little Mickey said happily, his eyes shining. Can't do it tonight, Mommy will pick you up tomorrow. She didn't forget that there was a big Buddha at home. Little Mickey immediately shrugged his shoulders in defeat, and looked at Mommy pitifully with his little eyes, which were still red. Qian Yuman pinched his little nose lovingly and said with a smile. Look at your little eyes that are red. Did you come out to look for me and couldn't find me? Then you started crying. How is that possible? Little Mickey protested. He was a genius child. How could he not find his mother to cry? However, he would not tell Qian Yuman that he came out because he came out to trouble Tanyuj. In the end, Tanyuj asked about his father's affairs, which made him sad. He had never thought about his father before, but today he was asked by Tanyuj, and he was very curious about his father, whom he had never met before. Little Mickey's little paws hugged Qian Yuman's neck, and his peach blossom eyes, which were exactly the same as Qian Yuman's, looked at his mother with sparkling eyes. Mommy, why doesn't little Mickey have a daddy? Who is my daddy? Daddy. Little Mickey asks about her daddy. The smile on Qian Yuman's face froze, and many complex looks flashed through her eyes. Her eyes looked at the son in her arms with a trace of sadness and deep affection. This was also the first time that her son took the initiative to ask about his biological identity. What happened to my father happened unexpectedly. But she wasn't surprised. She had also thought that her son would ask, after all, who didn't have a father? Little Mickey didn't understand it before, but now as he gets older, he has more and more things to think about, but he just doesn't think about what she thinks. Be early. Qian Yuman smiled softly and touched his head. How can little Mickey not have a daddy? His godfather is also considered your daddy. It's not this, it's daddy, not godfather. It's just, how to put it, little Mickey frowned in annoyance, a little anxious, trying to think of how to describe it. Although Kenny's godfather also loves him very much, he is different from other children's parents. He either lives together and is not called daddy by him, or he is different from other parents' parents. It's the daddy who lives with mommy, not the godfather. I once saw Katie next door with her parents. Why am I without a daddy? He also wants to be with Katie, with his parents. Little Mickey Jian-Yuman had a sour nose and hugged her son into her arms. Naturally, she knew what her son was talking about. She had just deliberately changed the subject. The child has grown up and has a father, and the relationship between her and Tanyuj. Baby, I'm sorry. Mommy can't give you daddy now. Your daddy and I have been separated for many years because of some things. When you grow up, mommy will tell you the reason. If you want to see your daddy, I'll take you there, okay? Okay, little Mickey nodded, with a childlike smile on his face. Although he didn't quite understand the meaning of his mother's words, it was enough to say that he would be taken there when he grew up. He doesn't understand the complicated world of adults. When he gets older, in 2 or 3 years, he will definitely understand. He can wait. At this moment, Tanyuj, who came to see little Mickey, appeared at the entrance of the restaurant. Jian-Yuman, who was holding her son in her arms and preparing to leave, suddenly saw Tanyuj standing at the door, and was so frightened that she almost threw her son out. Good night, wake up and update. If I don't achieve my goal this time, it will be 20,000 words the day after tomorrow. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1089. Chapter 1089. Who is my daddy too? Oh my god. Tanyuj. Why did he show up at the door? Jian-Yuman looked around and suddenly remembered that the building opposite seemed to be the branch of Tanyuj's Emgrand Group. It was not surprising at all that he came to work at the Emgrand Group today and appeared in the restaurant opposite. She looked at her son in her arms. She didn't even have time to think about it. She squatted under the table with her son in her arms, and hugged him as well. Johnny, who was coming with Jian-Yuman, also saw Tanyuj, and immediately moved his steps to block Jian-Yuman, and glanced guiltily. Fortunately, Johnny and Tanyuj didn't know each other, but John was different. He knew exactly who little Mickey's biological father was. Naturally, he also understood that Jian-Yuman and Tanyuj were just friends now, and at the same time, he also knew that Tanyuj did not know the existence of little Mickey at all. Jian-Yuman, who was hiding under the table, was extremely nervous. She hugged her son hard and covered his mouth with her hand to prevent the little guy from making any sound. She didn't even dare to look back, and she didn't know why she was so afraid of meeting Tanyuj. She knew that she could avoid the first day of the junior high school but not the 15th day. Oh my god. I am very clear about what you are thinking. Can you give me a little more time so that I can mentally prepare myself and not let him find out about little Mickey's existence? Oh my god. I beg you. God may have heard Jian-Yuman's call. Tanyuj didn't even cast his eyes on Johnny, who was wearing flashy clothes. He walked directly past him and found the waitress who had just helped little Mickey to groom himself. Has the child who was with me just now come back? Tanyuj was very concerned about the safety of little Mickey. The waitress saw Tanyuj. Although she didn't know what happened between them, she still told her about meeting little Mickey again. He did come, but he seemed to be waiting for his mother. I also saw a young and beautiful woman hugging him excitedly, and the children also called her mommy. Okay, thank you, Tanyuj nodded and left. He felt relieved after confirming that the little guy and his mother were together. It also proved that the little guy really knew his mother's contact information, otherwise how could his mother come here? However, he was still very curious about what his mother looked like, and what kind of single mother could bring up such a naughty and smart child. At this moment, Tanyuj didn't take little Mickey into his heart. To him, today was just a small episode, and he didn't think that the two of them would meet again in the future. It's a pity that his idea will be greatly verified in the future. The fate between father and son is not as simple as he thought. In the future, they will not only meet, but even become father and son, and they will have a father-son relationship with extremely unequal family status. After confirming that the children and their mother had left, Tanyuj had no need to stay any longer. He turned around and left with a smile, continuing his purpose of patrolling the branch. As for coming to this restaurant to find the suspect who was peeping at him, he had long forgotten about it. As Tanyuj left the restaurant, Johnny reached out and patted the table, calling with a smile. "Manman, come out, Tanyuj is gone." Gone, just in case. Qian Yuman stuck her head out to see if Tanyuj had really disappeared without a trace. As soon as she stuck her head out, she saw Tanyuj coming in again at the door. End of this chapter. After the flash marriage, the character collapsed. Author, Daobi in the World. Chapter 1090. Chapter 1090. Who is my daddy? 3. Gone, just in case. Qian Yuman stuck her head out to see if Tanyuj had really disappeared without a trace. As soon as she stuck her head out, she saw Tanyuj coming in again at the door. "Oh my God," Qian Yuman was startled and immediately retracted her head. Fortunately, she did not stand up directly. Tanyuj came in, ordered a drink to take away, and then left. He didn't stay long, but Qian Yuman was frightened half to death. "Johnny, has Tanyuj left this time?" I'm gone, I've been gone for a few minutes, I probably won't come back." Johnny also waited for Tanyuj to leave for a while before speaking to Qian Yuman. This time Qian Yuman also took a look. After confirming that he would not come back, he immediately stood up. Because she had been squatting on the ground for too long, her legs were numb. Not long after she stood up, she sat on the sofa. If Johnny hadn't been quick to catch her, he might have fallen to the ground with his son in his arms. Little Mickey has been staying quietly in Qian Yuman's arms, staring at mommy with his big eyes, thinking about a series of strange behaviors of mommy. Why is mommy hiding from bad guys? And she was afraid of being discovered by him. It scared me to death. The world is so small. Qian Yuman reached out and patted her chest to make sure that Tanyuj had really left, then she sat on the sofa with peace of mind and ordered a breakfast in a good mood. Not long after I got up, I received a message from Johnny saying that little Mickey was lost, and he didn't even have time to have breakfast. Mommy. Qian Yuman glanced at her son. "It's okay, I'll call you." Little Mickey looked at the building opposite, took out his binoculars and peeked across, and sure enough, he saw that Tanyuj had returned to the office. He originally wanted to ask his mother why she was avoiding Tanyuj, but in the end he chose not to ask. Whatever the case. Anyway, his goal is to keep Tanyuj away from his mommy. He has a feeling that if he comes, he will take his mommy away. Mommy belongs to him alone and will not be given to anyone else, not even Kenny's godfather. When Tanyuj inspected the Dehao Group's branch in Paris, it only took him a morning. At noon, he happily ran to find Qian Yuman, but was locked out and refused to go in. "Qian, open the door quickly." Tanyuj looked at Qian Yuman pitifully, tears were about to fall. Only half a day later, her attitude changed again. As expected, the woman's heart was deep in her heart. "I don't have time to entertain you, you'd better go stay in your own hotel." Qian Yuman refused Tanyuj to enter through the door. The iron gate at the entrance of the villa blocked the two of them. Tanyuj looked unhappy and wanted to protest Qian Yuman. The clothes he washed last night were also stuffed in through the iron gate. "Qian, what are you doing? You're obviously fine. Although you and I are friends now, my father is coming over soon. My mother will be here and my brother will be there by then. It's inconvenient for you to be an outsider, so you'd better go somewhere else." Outsiders, Tanyuj frowned, feeling a pang in his heart at the word Qianyuman outsiders. Qianyuman realized that she had said the wrong thing, but she didn't have the face to say comforting words, so she could only look away in embarrassment. Qianur, just let me in, Tanyuj begged again, his little eyes as pitiful as they could be. Qianyuman saw Tanyuj's appearance and almost agreed to let him in, but thinking about little Mickey, he finally gritted his teeth and became a bad guy. Recommended article, The Dark Devil Loves Favors. The Two-Faced Wife's Revenge is about a hero with two souls, and the beloved wife returns with revenge. The heroine's character changes from passionate to fiery, to cold as ice. End of this chapter.